120 members who has participants who have participated, out of which 23 to 25 are non-members. I'm also happy to inform you that we have started payment gateway and approximately 15 people have made a payment through payment gateway. This payment gateway I would request you all to take benefit of because it is meant for your convenience. With these few comments, friends, I am now handing it over to the chairman Vipul Bhai. Thank you.
Thank you, President Janak Bhai, President Yatin Bhai, Ashok Sharma ji, past President, former Chairman of WRC, Pankaj Bhai and Atul, Ashwin Bhai, and very senior professionals and friends. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this study course on Companies Act. The President has given preamble about this course. We had the workshop in the month of March and it got a very good response, and as he rightly said, just when we were ending the workshop, the rules got notified and we all are plagued by the fact that how to implement this Companies Act, and a lot of problems are faced by all of us. So we thought that it would be an opportune time to have this study course so that all are geared up to advise their clients, the related party transactions which we have to all record in the first quarter board meeting, and then inform the registrar, MCA, etc., and depreciation revised schedule. There are a lot of issues. So basically, the structuring of the study course is done in a manner that entire gamut which is relevant for all the practicing professionals as well as industry is covered. And we have tried to select some of the best professionals who have immense knowledge on the subject so that we all are benefited. Only one apology to all of you for little inconvenience, because we never thought that the participation would be so much. We had targeted about 80 and it is now about 120. So we are arranging additional chairs, so kindly bear with us. Now coming to the corporate member committee. The committee was formed in 2007-8. The idea of this committee was to give a platform to the corporates so that they have a common platform, they can do networking and exchange ideas. That is the idea of having this committee, and also they are benefited by subscribing to the journal. As of now, we have about 100 members, so those who are the corporates attending this study course, I would request you to do some propaganda about chamber and get more enrollment so that you ultimately will be benefited. And we have proactively done a lot of courses which are beneficial to the corporate members, and some of the recent ones have been imparting training for the future CFO. Making of a CFO in that program got a very good response. At the end, I think I would like to place on record the effort put by Mr. Ashok Sharma, the chairman of the Live Law Committee. Who doesn't know Ashok ji? Such a prominent figure, such a sincere person. The convener of the committee, Mitesh Majithia, and Hasmukh Kaushik Javeri, very active member of the corporate member committee. With these, I welcome you all and have a very fruitful deliberation. And may I request Ashok bhai to
Mr. President, respected Speaker, respected seniors, and friends. For those who are not members of the chamber, I would just like to say something about the Allied Laws Committee. We have Allied Laws Committee, and our object is to impart knowledge on other laws other than taxation, which are relevant for our day-to-day tax practice. We hold seminars, study circles on the allied laws. Generally, the topics covered are real estate transactions, stamp duty, housing societies, and drafting, documentation, etc. Friends, after passing the company law, many are saying how dhanda kaise karne ka, how to do business. there are many harsh provisions in the company law, and chamber is in the process of making representation to the ministry. I will request you if you have any suggestion, kindly send to the chamber's office, either in the chamber's office or you can email to the chamber. We are meeting in the next week. By Monday or Tuesday, you may send your suggestion so we can incorporate those suggestions in the representations to be made. Now with this, I request Kaushik Bhai Zaveri to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Janak Bhai Pandey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok Bhai. Good evening, everyone. I have great pleasure to introduce first speaker of the workshop, Shri Janak Pandya. Janak Pandya is a practicing company secretary and is a member of Institute of Company Secretary, is a member of Institute of ICWA and also law graduate. He has an overall experience of over 3 decades. He has worked in the industry for 15 years, which includes working with multinational engineering companies, EKW, Nasdaq listed US software company IMR Global Limited. He is in practice since 1996 and has an experience in the field of due diligence, FEMA, SEBI laws and compliances. He is also providing faculty for various academic development programs, seminar of ICSR. From the last 4 years, he is regularly writing articles on company law cases in Income Tax Review, which is now named as Chambers General of the Chamber of Tax Consultants, which is been published since last 37 years. He is also on General Committee meeting of the Chamber of Tax Consultants. Friends, we will have a wonderful speaker in Janak Pandya, and I request President Jatin Desai to honor him.
Good afternoon to all professional colleagues. Thank you for inviting me for giving my views. As an expert, and I think in this new act, that I'm sure that in this we also will learn to do TTC again the same way. All CA is also doing the company's activities. This is my 5th to 6th lecture on this incorporation. The most concern for me, and I think for all of us who are the professional, is that the liability which is imposed on us is such a tremendous. I mean, while going through my lecture, I will let you know the minor point. I am not going into how you file the forms or what work forms you will file, but how each and every section drafted in such a loose way that a meaning can be taken in a different way to make sure if somebody wants to flip it, they can flip it. It's a different meaning and different things. And I'm sure that most of us already read so many newspaper and everything. India is already law in the business starting operations. How many days we take it doesn't. But today after this new Companies Act, the only thing they are not asking is FIR, that you are not otherwise everything they ask for you to do that you are honest. Otherwise they ask which and every document made from the incorporation. What you are supposed to fight. You know, before you start the business, they think that you have to pass this test of honesty. And that is what if you come out with this document. The incorporation, as we know that in the earlier stage that we are just simply having name reservation, just filing out and show that you are not fitting into any 15 lakhs companies, give all kind of excuses, okay, bring all the stars into your name and say this is Lucky Star, there Lucky Star, and everything you do. The same way MOA, you have the sole leeway of drafting the MOA. There was no restriction as such. And the filing is very simple. Here we have a different kind of approach altogether. Right from beginning the name application to you get a certificate incorporation. And how every point of time there is some lacuna into language or a different opinion can be viewed that will make you better. So in general it is section 3 to 7 and 8 that is popular section 25 companies. So between 3 to 7 and 8 you have to do the incorporation. Unfortunately, you would also lead to section 12 and 13 because registered office and something is linked to our incorporation is also given. So overall this 6 to 7 section and 3-4 rules, right? Definition rules, incorporation rules, director identification rules, and the last one is rule 24 about the registration and the office fees. And there is a very quite hidden kind of language in that rules which may create a problem for everyone. So overall section 2 we talks about a definition which we know in general private public office. Section 1 between 149 D, formation of company memorandum, articles, private public formation, etc. So these are the sections in which sequence we will run through the Then these are the rules, complete specification of definition details. This rules is very important in the two aspects which talks about the foreign company and that has some critical issues to see the definition of foreign company. Then the deemed rules, whatever it says, company incorporated rules and DSC instruction from CA. That is also a different kind of nowadays. Earlier you used to get the DSC, if you just send it out from email, you will get the DSC. Now it is a very difficult process to get a DSC. And it is more important because every director, earlier you can have one director, you could have a DSC and so on. Since every director, even the reasoning director has to file his own form, it is compulsory that from day one, all the directors, who are on the board, should have DSC right from the day one. Then these are the forms. I am not going into deep, neither into the nowadays things. Into all these things are the normal forms which we are going to use. Then there are application, conversion, application, declaration, professional order. So all of the normal forms which we will take with one by one when we go to the specific subject. Now, definition when we start with a private company. The two things is most importantly that earlier we used to have 50 members, now they allow us 200 members. These 200 members, one has to be very vouchable because that also is into your whether public or for respect of the so you have to be linked that 200 number of members. The other thing which they mentioned is that restriction for public issue. The word they use is security and not the sales and damages. Now if you go by the security, as per SCRA, and if you go by the definition of listed company, there are various private companies who are issued as NCDs, listed on the corporation, may fall into this kind of. Even though they are private, still they will be considered as a listed company because they are listed share NCDs from the stock exchange. No restriction or exception to deposit. Now earlier we had the 4 standard things. Minimum members, listed on transfer of shares, not to invite shares and holding, and not to accept the deposits. Now they remove this deposit because they have earlier we used to have deposit or rather loan from a directors, members or relatives. in the new definition, they only allow loan or whatever you say from a director only. That is, the members and relatives are no more eligible to give you loan of any kind, and it will attend as a letter deposit accepted from members or relatives. So this restriction they removed and they put a clause under section 73 and 74, so that now you can only accept deposit from the member in case of private company, and for a public company you can accept from all the people. So while I am putting many things which will may affect the private company much more in the new act compared to the public company, because there is not much change in the public company compliances compared to what we undergo under private company under new act. Now I already mentioned that as section 73(2) deposit exception from members. Now I mean, before I go, there is a kind of contradictory things which is coming. Symmetrically, I mean, it has already given the rules by the RBI, what will be a deposit mean, and they give all exemption what we have earlier in 1975, acceptance of deposit rules. There directors, members, and relatives. That subsection, I mean, the rules they remove, and they only put directors. There is another exemption under the deposit rules, which says if as per the conditions of the bankers or financial institutions, if your promoters or relatives has to give the loan, then same cannot be credited. And most of the private company we have that normally they allow all the relatives and others to have the unsecured kind of loan to support your operation. So the question may be interpreted that 173 says you cannot take a deposit from NDIs and from member you go on the rules for 73. Whereas deposit itself exempted this kind of money which you have taken from your relatives and members as per the terms and conditions of loan granted by the financial or banks. So one has to view that whether I will be exempted those who already have the deposit as of today, or whether I have to replace deposit from members and relatives by 2015. So these are one of the things which one has to look at. In my view, if it is exempted, then we can always take a view that it is not a deposit at all, because it is been already exempted as virtue of bankers and FIs insisting that you should have this loan continue. But one has to take a very holistic view, because today, and most of them maybe the auditors and everything, there are kind of thing where both the professional has to make sure that they have the same kind of views and interpretation, so that end of the day, when you do the audit, client doesn't suffer because of there is an interpretation issue between the two parties. That is going to happen in 2013. Consistently, CAS and consumer has to work together for each and every item to make sure in audit, the disclosure of everybody is the same and in compliance with the company. Now, public company means, and again, I come later on about what is the issue related to foreign subsidiary, whether they are public or not. Still is a gray area, everybody is scratching their head that either it or they are or not. And it very clearly says, they removed it, that because earlier there was an issue that a subsidiary of a public company, those that need to be public company, there was no language whether he is to change the articles or not change the articles. This time they added article that it is deemed to be a public company irrespective of whether you change the articles or not. So one thing is very clear that whether you change the articles or not change the articles, you are still a public company. Now question gray area still remains, and maybe there are different. The moment I am a subsidiary, if I am right from beginning I am a subsidiary, no issue. The moment I come as a public, whether I should have 3 directors and 7 members, or whether I can continue as the same what deeming section of 43A, Then you continue with your own kind of two people and section, and director and section. So the idea is here that there is the thing which they can clarify very clearly, that this such company has to comply with the requirement of public company, which they have kept it silent. And say that whether you change your article or you don't change your article, you are a public. So conservatively, if the company later on becomes public company by virtue of subsidiary of private company, it is advisable that we do that 3 directors and 7 members, so that you are out of any interpretation. Because nothing will come up today, but maybe after 3-4 years, where this issue come up. And there may be lots of non-compliance by that time because of what you are supposed to do for it. Now, then you go to section 260 to 1% company, which I like. OPC is, as already we know, is 1% company, and now it comes with the incorporation. What are the issues in OPC? Typically, when we look at a normal OPC, then you have the body corporate, same as it is what we have. It covers everybody except societies, which include even the foreign companies. Now, here is the catch. There was no definition of foreign company earlier except under 591 to 597. And we talked about any foreign company having their branch in India or US countries has to file certain documents with RBI, get the foreign certificate, and normally 1 year filing is required. Now here they specifically made a definition of foreign company, which talks about body corporate outside. Place of business in India itself, or through agent, or physical, or electronic board. Now this has a very wide coverage of interpretation from both the sides, regulatory side, and I know many of you must be knowing the issue which tax department is having on site is Google, so Amazon. There are lots of issues coming up. The sites which are not in India, nothing in India, but still we pay to our credit card and everything international. And the issue may arise that whether your servers in India, outside India, I think you are knowing much more better than me about this taxation of this kind of companies. E-commerce company when it talks about, when it doesn't have any presence in India, can somebody will treat it as an Indian company or foreign. But by this definition, it talks about electronic mode B2B or B2C, data interchange, digital supply, online services, web-based marketing, telemarketing, all data communication, all advisory and financial services, supply chain management. So one has to be very, very careful because today we have so many communication through emails. Even we get advice over the phone. We get a financial and advisory services, and mind well, this is not been done in isolation. I mean, most of you people are technically, you know there are various cases which is going on about the foreign law firm in India, foreign this one, whether they are present in India or not, how they advise in India, whether they are physically traveling in India or they do through electronic means, emails and everything. So if you look at this definition, you have to make sure that you have to, if suppose you have some kind of client, that whether you are falling into this kind of definition or not. And if you are falling into this definition of any kind of services being rendered in India, whether you are a foreign company, and if you are a foreign company, whether you register with RBI and also. Now they, after this definition, they just left blank that whether this company has to do something, whether this company has to get it somebody, filing something, nothing they mentioned. But this definition is quite loose and quite exhaustive. Any services which you talk about may cover under this definition, and the person who are rendering this kind of services may have some kind of concern in the liability side. Now these are the normal companies which we work with, and there is no change in that except OPC which we have. Now OPC, as per my understanding, when it was started right from 2003 and then JJ Irani committee made it. The idea was that OPC is rather a foreign company which will subsidiary 100%. Outside India, it has one main directorship, shareholder is one director, one shareholder. So that was the basic structure of OPC. They put into this company law, will come at how it will may have a clashing kind of thing against LLP. If you have to advise the client and what you should suitably do in the formation. Again, they want natural person, Indian citizen, staying 182 days. So, in way, it is only Indian who can do OPC. That's very clear. Because there is a precedent here. Precedent means it is always a continuous basis of proving that you are resident in India 182 days every year. And I am sure that you are well known about all this definition of NR, NRI, and NR, all these things. So, these are continuous basis you have to evaluate 182 days if somebody wants to do OPC. Then only one person, one OPC. If there is a draft rule, they have provided for 5 people, 5 OPC, and you can be dealing with 5 OPC. But now they have changed. They purely made one person, one OPC. What's the logic? It cannot carry into NBFC, it's a normal. This is normally happens to LLP and everything. So it is more or less the same kind of thing which we are continuing with the restriction which we have. And then it cannot convert into voluntarily before 2 years expiring unless legally required. So it has to work for 2 years. And if legally required, it will come what is the criteria for conversion. It has to continue for 2 years. So these are the overall framework of OBC 1%. Again, it's the same thing, 1% company. So you have to have somebody as a nominee, which we already have for other side. But here, you have to put a nominee name right from the beginning in your memorandum, and you have to file specific form. Nominee also has to be the consent that yes, I want to be nominee. And it's a standardized kind of form that you say, I agree with be nominee, you be agree with appointment nominee. So these are the process-wise, it's very simple. I mean, as much as form you can file it out. But the question may arise that all this, I'm not worrying about all this change and everything because it's a normal. If there is any change, you will file one form, another form, again you file with the ROC. So normally, after incorporation, changes into OPC about the nomination and everything is a normal compliance requirement which one is to do. And that not be much of the legal issues, except that there must be a issue. Every time you are filing, consenting, and you have to make sure that gentleman is not OPC, I mean, a nominee or member of any. Okay. Now let's start with the conversion. There's a criteria they give. 50 lakhs of capital or average turnover of 2 crore. You have to convert. Now the question may arise, why somebody should do OPC for this minimum amount of turnover of capital? Why I cannot suggest my client to be LLP? If I go by the practical way, I say what is the use of OPC with this kind of even turnover and paid up capital? With all like compliance under the Companies Act, right from everything. Even though you are the one board, you put board meeting, accounts, audit, and everything you have to. There is not much of the exemption for OPC as such. Then why one should do OPC? That's the first thing. Is it a real business sense? With this low amount, I will have it. Then it has to convert into private and public. Why not in LLP? Suppose if you want somebody to start with the registration and this one. Why OPC has to only convert in public and private, not in LLP? Because if the idea is there that you make people, entrepreneurs to get into the mode of legality.